It's Q&A time. I want to start off this video by thanking every single person who left a question in the comment section. Now, I can't answer all of them in this video because that would be a really long video, but I did get a good bunch of them. And what I've done is I took screenshots of all of them and then I renamed every single one with like a random jumble of letters and numbers, and we're just gonna do them in the order that they appear that way. And I also want to thank all of my subscribers because you guys are awesome, and thanks so much for watching my content and supporting this channel. But with that out of the way, let's dive into the questions, and we're gonna start with Joe Madden, who wanted to know, what's 2 plus 2? And I think the answer to this is really easy. I mean, any kindergartner could do that. The obvious answer is 6. I mean, what a dumb question, right? Right off the bat, dumb question. Sir Mordred asks, legend has it that Bobololo can mod at the speed of a vampire who drank a lot of coke. Or wait, is it the other way around? Who is faster at modding, Bobololo or Drac? That's a really good question and one that I did not expect, but the answer is pretty simple. Drac. Drac is much faster at modding. I tend to mod at a pretty slow pace because I like to nitpick a lot of the little details. So one example is epoxy putty. I like to do a lot of work with epoxy putty, especially when it comes to building areas for integrations that kind of flow from one part of a shell into another. When it comes to that, I am very picky with how it looks and how smooth it is. So little divots in the epoxy putty, like from sanding or accidentally hitting it with a Dremel bit, I will go back and patch it up. I will redo it multiple times to get it perfect and just the way I want, and I spend a lot of time doing that. Painting is another thing. My paint jobs aren't perfect by any means. I mean, there are people out there who do way better jobs, but I will spend a lot of time just doing tiny little touch-ups. So I spend a lot of time in the little details, which really extends the periods in which I could get the mod done. But I think the results are really good. Not to discredit Drac, because Drac does good work, but I hinder myself by just small stuff. There you go. Darcy James asks, why can't you have a normal haircut? It's either really short or really long. Okay, so I went to a high school that had a hair policy. You had to have it above the eyebrow, it couldn't be over the ears, it couldn't even be touching the ears, and the back of it couldn't touch the collar of your shirt. So after high school, I immediately started growing out my hair, and you know, it just got longer and longer until it got really long. At which point I got tired of after a while because there's just things with long hair that really get annoying, like having to brush it all the time, especially if you go to a concert and you're headbanging, knotted all over the place and just ripping your hair out's not fun. Shampooing, conditioning it took a while. So I shaved it off for charity and regrew it, looked better, but it was still really bothering me. So I shaved it off January of last year. And it's just so easy, like short hair is so easy to control, and I really like it like this. But for Dragon Con, we're thinking about doing a cosplay that will require me to have normal hair, so I might start growing it out. This is the beginning of me growing it out for that. And maybe I'll like it enough to just keep it, but the idea of paying for haircuts is kind of annoying, and then like your haircut could be bad, which is annoying, and just shaving it all off in one go takes like 15 minutes. It's super easy and it's so manageable compared to long hair and normal haircuts. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll like having a normal haircut finally. Zach Ertzberger asks, what led you to modding as a hobby? And the answer is HVZ in college. So I had blasters as a kid, loved them, but when HVZ rolled around, I had to get new stuff because my mom gave away all my vintage stuff. And now that I think about it, those vintage blasters wouldn't have done pretty well in HVZ. So I got a long shot, and I'm not entirely sure the steps that got me into modding, but I stumbled upon, I think it was a Nerf Haven post, or it might have been SG Nerf. I don't remember how exactly, but you know, it showed you that you could open up the blaster and modify the insides, and that just blew my mind because I never thought of it like that. So HVZ 2009 is what got me into modding, and it's been progressing ever since. Steven Junked, feel really bad for not knowing how to say your last name. Junked? Junk? Sorry, Steven. He asks, going slow or going fast, and Taco Bell or Pizza Hut? This answer is super obvious, and if you don't know the answer, well, you don't know Go Slow Taco. That's right, boys. Coming back for End War. Go Slow Taco! Colin Bank wonders, would you rather have telekinesis up to 50 pounds or be able to recall anything you've seen or heard before. And I did think about this, and I've come up with my sightings for both. So telekinesis would be really awesome because you could work for certain companies as like a lifter, and you could do a lot of work, and you would never get tired out unless the telekinesis has some sort of like tiring effect. I don't know. But there's a lot of benefits to that. However, being able to recall anything you've seen or heard before has more benefits because not only could you be like in a little debate and be like, you're wrong, you said this at this time at whenever, and just say it perfectly, but you could also become an expert in fields that you're interested in. You could work as like a moderator for something. You could work as like a truth sayer. I don't know. There's a lot more benefits to recalling things that I can think of, but you're gonna remember all the cringy things you've done in your past, which has some very negative downsides to it. You'll just be like, oh God, why did I do that? But I would go with recall anything you've seen or heard before because I can think of more benefits to that overall. And 50 pounds isn't that heavy. If it was like 2 tons, I would go with the telekinesis, but recall anything you've seen or heard before is my pick. Derpy Hawks fan 88 wonders, which blaster is your favorite and which one was your first? The first blaster I ever had, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, but the one that I have like picture proof of having, and as a young kid, and I believe it's the first, is a bow and arrow. Here's the picture. I look adorable. I can't even prime the thing back all the way. So cute. And my favorite blaster is one that I have championed for a long time as being the greatest blaster of all time. It's the Pulsator, boy! Pulsator, 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 Pulsator! Pulsator! Isaiah asks, Dear Bobo, how do you like your steaks? What video games do you enjoy? Have you heard of Alpha Omega Sin? He reminds me of you. You both are humorous and share one fine taste in music, metal. We'll do this in order of asked. How do you like your steaks? I like them medium rare or rare.
What if somebody wants theirs well done?
We ask them politely yet firmly to leave.
What video games do you enjoy? I play a good range of stuff, I guess. First-person shooters. I was really into Battlefield Bad Company 2. It's probably the best Battlefield game they've made. Played Battlefield 3. I stopped playing Call of Duty because I just got so sick and tired of it. Let's see here. Hotline Miami, Party Hard. I'm just going through my Steam list in my head. Burnout 3 was a lot of fun. I actually got a PS2 emulator on my PC just so I could play Burnout. And Dynasty Warriors 4 was really fun when I was younger. The GTA series I absolutely love. What else? There's just a bunch of stuff. I'll probably have like a list on the side here because there's a bunch of stuff that I play. Have you heard of Alpha Omega Sin? I believe I'm subscribed to him unless YouTube like kicked me off. I think they have kicked me out of his channel. I haven't seen a video from him in a while. Pretty good channel. If you haven't seen him, he does a lot of like video game rants. So yeah, Alpha Omega Sin, medium rare steaks, and a big plethora of video games. Matthew Green wonders, what's your favorite blaster of all time? Said it before and I'll say it again. Pulsator, 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 Pulsator! Pulsator! The Omnic Nerfer asks, who is your favorite YouTuber you have worked with or in general? Who is someone you want to work with but haven't yet? Favorite YouTuber I have worked with, probably Jangular. Jangular is such a nice dude. Really fun to hang out with. Had a great time at his house. We just chilled and talked and shot 800 something darts, which was a lot of fun. My favorite YouTuber in general, I'm trying to think of this in terms of like which videos do I click the most and most consistently. I don't know. You can look at like all the people I'm sub to and kind of get an idea. I really can't answer that. That's a tough one. And who is someone you want to work with but haven't yet? I would like to work with Psych. Psych is a really cool dude. Tom of Phone Data Services just does wonderful, wonderful work. Those are like 2 international dudes. Someone from, I guess, domestically or within the US. I want to do something really crazy without a darts because that just rivals are his thing. Going big is his thing, and I think we could make some really crazy monstrosity of a build together. But I think that's a pretty good answer. There you go, Omnic Nerfer. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this name. Josuke Higashikata. I'm gonna call you Joe. Joe wonders, favorite blaster you have ever made. This is a toss-up between the American Stampede and the Pwn Saw for slightly different reasons. The American Stampede was not only my first big paint job, but it was just a stupid blaster that was fun to make, and the video was probably my favorite video to make because it was just talking crap the whole time. And Pwn Saw is kind of different because I had an idea of what I wanted and I had to substitute some stuff for it, and it was, let's make something ridiculous that shoots really fast, really well, and make it something that just unleashes chaos among the HVZ battlefield. It was also a much more serious build, and I think it turned out way, way better in terms of like things that went into it, how it was built, how it was put together, because honestly, like crappy wiring and trust fires, ugh, the dark ages, right? But Pwn Saw is the more serious build, and American Stampede was very goofy, very fun, and the video is one of my favorites. So those are the two blasters I think that are my favorite that I've ever made. Madman31 is wondering, what is your favorite Nerf or HVZ experience? And this one's easy. So one year, I was part of a team called the Horsemen. We got a perk called the Engineer perk, where we got these, it's kind of, think of like a movie theater line with a little roped off area. We got something kind of like that. And what it did was you could put it down and make about a, probably like a 5-foot wall that zombies could not tag over or go through. They had to go around it. We were going to do a mission where you had to hold point A in order to get point B open, and in order to get point C open, you had to have point A and B, and then you had to hold all of them for about 15 minutes. So we were wondering how we could use this perk to really help the humans, and we were thinking like, okay, we want to take point C, which was in the middle of a dorm kind of area, like the dorm was around it, and there was balconies and stuff. There's a first floor and a second floor. And one of our teammates, he said, there's that balcony that only has one entrance. We all just kind of looked at him, we're like, oh yeah. So we all filed, you know, out of the dorm that we were in, went across campus, got up to this balcony and just barricaded the one entrance to it, and we had an overlooking view of the courtyard. We could shoot people. It was a very good position. Well, zombies quickly figured out what we were doing and kind of blocked us into this hallway for 6+ hours until the safe time came, which was at midnight when you could, you know, no play, people could go back to their dorms and go to sleep. So for 6 hours, we were stuck outside on this balcony, just shooting zombies randomly. It was amazing. One of them brought us pizza. We got to talk with a lot of them. It was a lot of fun, but that's probably my favorite because the next year they put a timer on the Engineer perk because they were like, the Horsemen absolutely exploited the crap out of this, and we can't have this happen again. Best experience that I've had just because it was so stupid. I love it. Other than that, NVZ from 2016 was amazing because I just got to meet a lot of people that I've only talked to online, and we got to just have a lot of fun, hang out, talk, and shoot zombies. Great time. So those are the two. Ariel Griffioian wonders, what is your favorite animated TV series? I am a huge fan of King of the Hill. It's probably my all-time favorite show just in general, but for animated TV series, it is #1. I absolutely love King of the Hill. I've cosplayed as Bill before. I have every episode on my computer. Just the greatest show in my opinion in terms of cartoons. Metalocalypse is a very, very close second. I absolutely love Metalocalypse. I'm still waiting for season 5 to come out. You Rick and Morty fans don't even know. Like, check yourself, man. Season 5 has been awful. You can't cliffhang like you did, and you can't do that to me. Man, awful. But yeah, King of the Hill and Metalocalypse are two of my all-time favorites. Mohammed Hader wonders, where did the name Bobololo originate from? I answered this in my first Q&A, but the story is just plain and not interesting. I'll tell it again. So back in the old days of 2002, I convinced my mom, I didn't buy it. I convinced my mom to get me the game Medal of Honor Allied Assault with I guess the excuse of it could be educational because it's World War II. That was a lie. So I got Medal of Honor Allied Assault for PC. And we put it on the computer, and I really liked the game. The game was great. I need to get it fixed for Steam, but really fun game. And I found out about multiplayer. I had no idea how it worked and like setting it up, but I did it anyway. And I needed a cool name for it. And I wasn't good at coming up with names, but I needed a really cool, hip, name like XX Elite Sniper 420 Blazin' XX or something like that. My friend was over and we were discussing like what would be a cool name. And literally he pushes me out of the chair, like into the wall next to the chair, and types in BOBOLOLO, hits enter, and he goes, "That's the best name ever." Just Bobololo. I was like, what does it mean? He's like, I don't know. So I've been using that ever since because one, I'm unoriginal. I can't think of anything better. And two, it's just a dumb name. And I don't know, it's just great. And apparently, and I've been getting a series of comments about this recently, but I've known this for a while, but in some languages, apparently it means idiot grandpa because a Bobo is idiot in some languages. And I guess Lolo is kind of like pop-pop, like you would call your grandpa, you know, pop-pop, but I guess Lolo. So idiot grandpa. I love it. I'm going to run with it forever, but Bobololo, that's where it came from. Nuka Beast is awesome. Wonders, do you like Jax films? I'm a big fan of Jax films, and I've only recently discovered him. I think it was Mean Comments 2. Someone said, like, this reminds me of Your Grammar Sucks or something. And that's how I found him. But I'm a really big fan of Jax films' comedy style. It's this really kind of weird timed, weird referenced randomness that's not Penguin of Doom holds up spork random. And I would really like to be like that. I don't know. I'm really jealous because I want to be like Jax films, but it's never going to happen. But I'm a big fan of Jax films. If you don't know Jax films, definitely go check out his stuff. It's a great channel. Cool Guys, or is it Cool Guise, asks, you're one of the most entertaining YouTubers. My question is, why don't you upload more often? This is going to be a bit of a complexicated answer. So it's multiple things. One, I don't have as much content to upload as other people, like people who get fan mail or things from companies. That gives you kind of a set amount of stuff that you can upload. Second part of this is the new style I want to go to, and this sounds so like, the new style, but the new way that I want to do videos is not so much sit down in my chair and do things off the fly, which leads to a longer, more out there video. I've been working on getting scripting down so I have a set amount of stuff. It's consistent and it has like a beginning, middle, end to it in a very linear kind of way that only has a little bit of room for ranting or going off point. Along with that, it takes me a while to do mods. Like I explained earlier, I'm very detail oriented with them, so it takes a while to get them done. Then on top of that, there's also motivational issues, which I'm sure a lot of people who mod have run into. It's just you don't want to do something that day. You're not in the mood to do it. You just don't have the energy. And filming is one of these things that I really don't get excited about because I'm not great at doing things. Like right now, answering this is great because it's on the fly. This is what I'm used to, and it just comes naturally because these questions are things that I can easily get to. But motivationally, I don't have a lot of it, and sometimes you just don't want to film that day. You're really tired, which is another thing, is just my sleep schedule is so bad. But motivation, not always having content, and taking a while to do builds, all kind of mashes up into this ball of just like, it takes a while sometimes. So my schedule isn't consistent, but I hope that the content that I put out is at a high enough quality to where you can kind of forgive that. And that sounds awful, but I want to do more. I'm going to try and get back into the swing of things, kind of like how building a blaster can get you back into the swing of things. I have 2 projects that I'm working on, just waiting for parts to come in. Weather has not been good, which is another factor. It has been really polleny, really rainy, and just sometimes you can't go outside, and it's mosquito season, and all this stuff just wraps up into bleh. So yeah. Oh, also, my editing software has been having this audio problem where if something is a little bit too loud, it just dampens the entire clip, leading to weird audio problems, which has been really annoying, and it's gotten worse. But I've been trying to figure out like a way around it, or if I should just get a brand new updated video editor. So that's everything. Long answer, but now you know all the details, and that's why I don't upload as often. And sometimes just the things you make aren't very good. So those are my excuses. Jeff Liu asks, how did you get interested in Nerf modding? I answered this before, but also, what was your first real modification? The first modification I ever did was a long shot. Very basic things, AR removal, a little spring upgrade that I got from like a really sketchy general hardware store in Savannah. I don't even know if it's still there, but it was sketchy. It was dark, nothing was shelved, dusty. I don't even, that place was awful. Spring upgrade, AR removal, padded the front with craft foam. Don't do that. Use real like rubber pads or something. And then I tried to paint it, and this was back before I knew how to paint. So it was like, let's not sand it. Let's not clean it. I did take the internals out though. That was good on my part. And let's just put a lot of paint on here and let it bubble and crack and be awful. And that was my first modification. It was called the Pink Menace, which is what I named the Strife after. The original Pink Menace was my first ever real mod, and it was not very good. We all gotta start somewhere, right? Brody Barnett asks, do you have a lady friend? I do, and it's gonna be 6 years in June. Fortus has the question, what would you say is the maximum muzzle velocity for a dart shooter that is safe for general play? So I guess like indoor use, like in a house, I would say around the Elite, like 70, but you could go less depending on if you have like fragile stuff or if you don't want your kids like popping each other in the eye at point blank. Wear your eye protection for that. For outside of that, like a more expanded indoor area, like a church, I would say you could get away with a bit of light modding over Elite ranges. But for like littler kids, it's definitely still a safe area. And then for like HVZ, usually the cap is around 120, 130. That's perfectly fine. So it's kind of like a sliding scale of who is playing and where you're playing. For NIC stuff, like, I don't care. You can go as hard as you want as long as you're not gonna like break through an arm or something like that. Evan Williams wonders, steak or chicken? This is an interesting question because both have their pros and cons. Steak is more expensive, chicken is cheap. Chicken is kind of like a basic meat that you can really build upon, whereas steak has a lot of, not complexity to it, but it has a lot of like stuff going on with it just plain. Like even if you just put a little bit of salt and pepper on it, boom, steak is good. You can slice it up, you can make Philly cheesesteaks with ribeye. You can do some really crazy fancy things with it. Chicken, I don't know. I'm gonna go with steak just because a steak by itself is really good, whereas chicken, like I feel like you have to add stuff to it in order to take it to a next level. Let's go with steak on this one. Good question. Trust Me, I'm an Engineer has a really good question with, at which do you most can't the least? And that is pretty simple. What I most can't the least would be do not a bad job and always a good. Very good question with a pretty simple answer to it. Hazard Lad 10 comes in with, if you had a choice of any Doomlands blaster to mod, what would it be? None of them. I really don't like the Doomlands line. If I had to pick one out of there, Lawbringer. I really don't know. I don't like any of the Doomlands blasters. They're just not that great. I don't know, man. I guess Lawbringer. Jonathan Didion is asking, given time and money weren't an issue, what would you mod and with what? Also, how well does a Nerf double dealer fly? And what question wasn't asked in your Q&A that you were expecting to have to answer or / edit out? We'll go in order on this, of course. Given time and money weren't an issue, what would you mod and with what? Something big and ridiculous. Like, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I won't mention names, of just things that are expensive for things that you can make yourself. That I don't want any of that. I would want to put something together that's just big and ridiculous and crazy, and like you gonna get something wild out of it. So I can't really think of it right now, but just off the top of my head, maybe like a rapid strike, or maybe dual rapid strikes. Hey, there we go. Dual rapid strikes with like chaoses on the side that have like big mags to them. Maybe like 3D print some really big extendable mags on it. I don't know. But something along those lines. There's something big and wild that shoots a lot of stuff at once. Maybe something you can mount to like a railing, you know, with like some clamps or something. Something cool like that. I don't know. That's a good question though. Something to always think about and set your goals to in the future. How well does a Nerf double dealer fly? Not as good as I wish it was. It's just too heavy. But I did send an email out to one of the RC channels, on one of the big RC channels, saying that if I would love to see them make a plane out of a double dealer, and I was willing to ship them a double dealer to do it. I never heard from them, but one of you out there, please put like motors and like a tail on a double dealer. I want to see this thing fly for real. Like a real flying double dealer plane would be amazing. Please make it happen. Make me happy. And what question wasn't I asked that I was expecting? Oh, geez, it's the internet. It could have been anything. Something about my schlong. Something about... No, I actually got something about putting my dick in something, so... I don't know. All bases are covered on this one. Josh Talbot asks, do you have kids? Easy answer, no. Kaladin, which I hope I'm saying right, asks, real question, who is your Overwatch main/favorite character? And add me on PC if you're on PC, blah, 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 blah. So this is going to be a pretty boring answer to those of you who play Overwatch or are really into it. The character that I always played out of or had the most playtime with is Soldier 76. I know, it's so boring. Not because it was the Call of Duty segue into the game, but because I found him to be very, very useful and something that I got down very quickly. When it comes to the more complex characters, I get kind of bored trying to learn them and perfect them, and there's always someone who just does better than you with them, and they're already on your team, and then people get sometimes mad at you for trying to play them. But Soldier 76 was someone that I got down really, really fast. He was the first one I chose, and I just played with him. His rocket attack is really nice to use, and just, I feel like it's helpful. But what I really love about him is he has his own little healing field, which you can put down for yourself, which I really like because I always played support in Battlefield. It was the role that I was used to. But also you can throw it down for your teammates, which when your healer isn't around and they're doing something else, it can be a really good thing to have, as even if it just gives you a little bit of health, throwing that down is very useful in a lot of situations, and that's why I really liked Soldier 76. If I had more time to get a character down, I think I would go with either Mei, because just there's so much usefulness to her, and Junkrat, because there's a lot of things I like about him, especially he uses a lot of explosives and kind of a chaotic character. Please add me on PC so we can play. I don't really play Overwatch anymore because I just could not keep up with the community, and I felt like I was not being a very useful teammate, so that's why I kind of stopped playing. I like the game, but I'm just not good enough to keep up with it, which is kind of sad now that I think about it. Lightning Eagle 14 is coming in with a lot of questions, and I'm going to answer every single one of them. Starts off with, what is the best way to integrate foam weaponry into a Nerf gun? And this I can't really answer because I don't deal with foam weaponry, but I'm sure someone out there who mods and is also into LARPing could answer this for you, so I'm not going to guess. Go find a good source for someone who knows what they're doing, a LARP group. They can probably help you out very, very well and better than I can. Best advice for someone who doesn't mod but wants to learn how. The biggest thing I can say is get a soldering iron and learn how to use it early on. It is such a gateway item that gives you so much more variety and potential just immediately or down the road. A lot of people want to do mods that don't require a soldering iron, and you're just really holding yourself back by not getting a soldering iron and learning how to do it. If you have budget problems, I totally get it, but start learning how to solder as soon as possible. It is such a wonderful thing to learn and really useful in this hobby. For someone who doesn't want to mod but wants to learn how, YouTube is a good source for stuff. I would say the forums, but they're kind of dead now, especially without pictures. So YouTube is a great place. Get inspiration from other people. Copying ideas is not a problem in this hobby. And start simple. Like Night Finder is still a very viable first mod, especially if you're wanting to get into the NIC stuff. Start simple, work your way up with there. I started with a long shot. I still think it's simple. SG Nerf's website is still around. Start with that. But soldering iron, I'd say, is the best place to start because the Strife is pretty easy to mod and it's not too difficult to learn how to do that stuff. Rapid Strikes are a different story, but Strifes and Night Finders are great starting platforms for modding. Also, how do you use epoxy? Sand, clean, epoxy it. 3 steps. And finally, what was your first Nerf war ever and why? In terms of like NIC stuff, SNO was my first ever war back in, geez, I don't even remember, I think 2011? Something like that, but SNO was my first one. I brought my HVZ stuff to it and I was immediately shown what an NIC blaster is. That was my first one. I've been warring ever since. It was a fun little war down in Savannah, so it was a bit of a ways. Bonus non-important questions. Feel free to choose which or none to answer. What is your favorite non-Nerf YouTube channel? Like I said earlier, I watch a lot of stuff and it's hard to pinpoint what exactly is my favorite. There's a lot of things on YouTube that I watch. If you had to choose between the destruction of Earth or the destruction of the entire universe except for the Earth, which would you pick? Both of those suck. Neither. Star Wars or Star Trek? Star Wars. I've never gotten into Star Trek. Sith or Jedi? Eh. Am I a wizard? No. Favorite element? Fire, ice, wind, lightning, earth, etc. I don't know. It's a good question. Water? Water's pretty sweet. There's a lot of stuff with water. Water is important. I'm gonna go with water. Did you ever think you would get this big as a channel? Absolutely not. It's kind of one of the it's one of the weird things about it is like you don't think about getting big and then it just kind of happens. You're like, well then, there are people out there like Coop. Oh my God, he has so many subs for like Nerfing. I remember back when like 10,000 was huge and then 30,000 was massive and then it was like, wait a second, someone hit 100,000? Like what's going on? It's one of those things that's constantly changing. We're gonna hit 1 million and it's gonna be like, wait a second, what is happening? I like to think it's because of things like Gizmodo and other places like that are, you know, when you show a crazy mod, more people are like, wait a second, you can do that with this hobby, and then people get interested. But never did I ever think that Nerf would get as big as it is now. It's kind of awesome. Do you believe in ghosts and or aliens? Ghosts I find, I'll have to see it before I believe it. Aliens, there's such a possibility of it. Like, it's not something that I really believe in. It's like, yeah, if an alien comes here, I wouldn't be surprised. But if people who are like, I was abducted, I'm like, no. Least favorite book that you were forced to read in school? Catcher in the Rye. Oh my God, that book was awful. It was so boring, and Colton's such a whiner. Oh, I hated that book, and I could go on an entire video rant about it. Catcher in the Rye is absolute BS, and I hated that book. Worst politician of all time? We won't get into that. Do I like root beer? Yes. And finally, do you think that I asked too many questions? No, I think a variety of questions is always good to have in a Q&A video. Thank you, Lightning Eagle. Trent Rimley wonders, Bobo, why did the flying chicken cross the road? Probably because there was a big bad bow on the other side that he wanted. Nerf Seeker 15 is wondering, could I share what paint I prefer to use when detailing a blaster? And the answer is obviously yes. So I use 3 paints, or maybe 4 paints, but they fall into 2 categories really. But the big one I use is the spray paint itself that I use to do the main color. So when you need to color match something you messed up, like say paint gets under the taping you used, it's hard to find stuff that matches other paint companies' things. Like you can't just go and get folk art paint from Walmart that matches, say, a lawn green from Montana Gold, because that lawn green is very, very specific, and the folk art may be just slightly off to where it's very, very noticeable. So what you do for this stuff, whether it be Montana Gold, Duplicolor, whatever, you get a paper cup, one of the just standard paper cups, not plastic because this will melt the plastic. Get a paper cup and just spray the spray paint into it. Let it sit for about 5 minutes or until it starts getting not so watery. Really depends on what the characteristics of the paint you're looking for is. And then just take a cheapo brush from Michael's, one that's not thick bristles, but very fine bristles. You can get like a pack of 10 of them for $12 and paint it on. It takes a little bit of learning to get the technique of how to paint it on without the solvents in the paint eating away at the layer before it and revealing something underneath like the shell color. But you can paint on the spray paint, and that gives you perfect color matching that you can't get from sourcing paints from more easily obtainable areas. So that's the one thing I use. The second paints that I use are Testers and Citadel. Citadel has a lot of cool colors with them that just really lend to detailing. So like really poppy colors or rust colors or anything like that. Citadel has a really nice lineup. And for more basic stuff, Testers is really good. The thing with both of these is you need to wait for both of them to cure fully before you do something like clear coating, or else the edges will become feathered from the clear coat eating away at the paint. Blah, 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 science. Tester, Citadel, and the paint that I actually use on the blasters are the things that I use to do all my detailing, depending on what I want to get out of it. Good question. RD1066 says, as you've been nerfing for some time and have thus seen the development of blasters over the years, where do you see foam blasters going? What innovations from the toy companies in the next, say, 5 years? This is a really good question. So nerfing has kind of gone from front-loading stuff to a couple of them using, straight clips, mags, whatever, to lots of magazine-based stuff now, with a couple of front loaders here and there. But one thing that I've noticed over the years is things trying to get cheaperly made, but also big enough to put a higher price point. For example, the Hyperfire, instead of using the Rapid Strike push motor, it uses a conveyor belt, which isn't as good in my opinion. It's just not as good. But there's also a hefty price tag to things like the Mastodon, the Nemesis, for example. My God, that thing's expensive. So I feel like, and this is kind of a pessimistic way of looking at it, that it's gonna get more cut corner stuff, but the prices are gonna keep going up because the blasters will be bigger or more complex. The way that I wish it would go would be more interesting blasters like the, that new one, I forget the name of the Regulator, that's what it is, that has like a 3-round burst system in it. Like, that's really cool, that's innovative. However, it uses that cut corner conveyor belt, which is really upsetting. Would have been a lot better with something like a pusher mech. But if things could keep doing things like that while also maintaining a somewhat decent price point, that would be ideal. In the next 5 years, I would say a burst fire module or like a select fire module is gonna be a thing that you see more of. Strife reshells are still going to be there because they're very simple to integrate into other stuff and use, and you just use the same parts over and over. Hopefully Rival gets a bit more, not simplistic, but more interesting gimmicky stuff. I miss gimmicky stuff that actually like had purposes for being gimmicky, not like here's a side-loading thing with a camera. Like, that's just not interesting, and nor was it good. But that's what I'm hoping for. I definitely can't tell you what's gonna happen, but I want gimmicks that work with things that aren't just cheaply made with a higher price tag. There you go. Lugia Shin has 2 questions. Do you miss your long Viking hair? Because at the moment, Justin stole your spot for the YouTube Nerfer with the best hair. Jealous. And 2, Double Dealer or Doominator. Oh God. So the first one is, the long hair was nice, but I have so many more benefits, I guess, of having shorter hair. There's a lot less mess, there's a lot less maintenance. I can drive with my window down and not have the hair blowing all over my face, which was really annoying. Concerts are easier to manage. There's a lot of good things about having short hair. There's one really big bad one, and that has to do with being associated with the wrong groups. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm waiting for one person to be like that guy and like punch me or something. I'm just waiting for it. The beard, I think I look better with the shorter stuff. The longer one could look really wonky. And am I jealous? Justin has beautiful hair, and he is, I'm just gonna give him the spot. I am not that jealous. Double Dealer or Doominator? Oh, I really hate both. I'm gonna go with Doominator on this. This is surprising me as an answer because the Doominator jammed, and which is annoying, but also like the shell is better, and the Double Dealer jams because of bad internals, like the little dart teeth would let the dart ramp up into the other barrel, and I feel the problems with the Doominator may be easier to fix in the long run. Both of them are awful, and if I had to choose Doominator, but I really hate that question. Jorge is wondering, how long have I known Drac, and are we both in the same Nerf club? We are both in the same Nerf club. We are both a part of the Southeast Nerf Club that he started here in Atlanta, based in Atlanta, but people come from all over around the Southeast area. Anyone's welcome to come. And how long have I known him? I've actually known him longer than most people think. We went to the same school, which is pretty wild. We only knew each other as acquaintances, like the groups of friends we had kind of intermingled sometimes, but I only knew him as the guy who brought Halo to school that we would play in the computer bays, which was great. Then we both went off to college, and then I met him at a Reinhardt HVZ game where I recognized him as his YouTube personality, but then was like, wait a second, we were in the same class. Like, that's pretty wild to me. It's such a small world when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, you can meet people in different areas of your life that you've known from before. Like that, it's wild, and it's just really cool to me that that's how that went down. Romano says, give a 3-word description about your YouTube channel. And the one that comes to mind is unreliable upload schedule. That's, if we want to get really down to it, that's the best one I have. A more positive vibe one I would hope would be like fun nerfing goodness or something like that. Something positive, but one off the top of my head is an unreliable upload schedule. Nick Marvin has an excellent question with, do you feel like the NIC or DIY class scene is dying or being taken over by Superstock and HVZ? And honestly, I feel like kind of yes. When it comes to nerfing, I understand why Superstock and HVZ is more popular. It's easier to get into. You don't have to have something that shoots like 300 FPS to really compete. And I put that in quotes because I've seen people do really well with lightly modified stuff against homemades. So it's really about playstyle more than like what you can make. But the NIC stuff I feel has been overshadowed by Superstock stuff because it's more graspable, especially when we have things like Gizmodo and a bunch of those kind of like, you know, shareable story websites. You see a lot of more of the Superstock stuff because it's something more people can grasp onto, whereas you can make a really killer NIC build, but it's beyond the nerfing thing. It's because you made it yourself and it's not really seen as like a Nerf blaster. As for dying, I would say yes because there's not as many people picking it up. So I'm going to agree with you and say that it's being taken over with, but for the communities where it's still going on, there are some very well-maintained communities. Like the Southeast, we still have NIC wars. People still come to them. They're still lively, but in an overall sense, yes, there's way more Superstock than HVZ, and that kind of bums me out because I really prefer the NIC games over Superstock. I find them more fun, more enjoyable, and I move around more during them. So I'm going to agree with you. Yes, I do feel like it's being taken over. Chris Austin is wondering what my thoughts are on HPA blasters. This is a really good question because I don't really talk about it too much outside of joking around with Spectre, Nerf, and Ryan of Make Test Battle telling them that they're ruining the game, they're cheating, all that stuff. I'm on a weird fence with HPA. Part of me does see it as like it's too close to paintball and airsoft. Like there's that kind of, it touches that. And it could be because I see them as being overpowered, especially when you can do like a full auto, consistent velocity stuff. Like it touches into that realm, but that's not really what I believe. It doesn't interest me too much because it's just something that I don't see myself getting into. But there's also creativity and really interesting things that you can do with it. The stuff Liam's building is awesome, and the stuff Ryan has done is pretty simple, and it fits inside Nerf shells, but it's also like really awesome what you can do with it. So I'm on a fence of, it's not interesting to me with kind of like a little branch going off into the, I feel like it's overpowered for what we do and it's touching into the paintball realm, but I don't really believe that, but there's maybe like a 1% of me that does. But there's also a lot of cool stuff to it, and I don't want to deny it and be like, no, it's wrong, get off my property. Good question, I don't talk about that too much. Taylor Herber is wondering, would you be open to doing another iteration of your Raven? And I have been thinking about doing another version of a splatter paint kind of build, this time maybe with Montana Gold shot colors so they actually do glow in the dark instead of me having to put glow sticks on it. Not sure what I would do it with, but I think maybe like a strife, maybe for Alice's Lick My Butt strife that I still need to do. Something that's really more Raven-y than the Raven, but not a Raven because I don't like Ravens. But yeah, I do plan on doing one of those in the future. Oh, and Ma, how tall are you? I'm 6'4", I'm a tall guy. Chapter Master Jusius Colderion? Why is your upload schedule so inconsistent? Because I'm unreliable. And I've mentioned the other stuff before. Nebula Nerf is wondering, what's my favorite metal band, and what's your favorite cereal, and what's your favorite blaster? You can answer all or none of these, but all would be nice. And I will answer all of these. So the first one is my favorite metal band that's been at the top of my list for a very long time is Winter Sun. Winter Sun is an awesome band. They do wonderful work. Their first album was really good. Time One was not as good, but still a solid release. And the Forest Seasons I'm really looking forward to. Wonderful, beautiful music that also has heaviness to it, and they have just very well done, well made songs. However, Cattle Decapitation has been kind of grinding away at it. The more I listen to Cattle Decapitation, just the more I really get into them. There's complexity and like the right amount of brutality and heaviness mixed in together that really makes them their own kind of band. Like Monolith of Inhumanity was such a good album. So there's always this kind of constant battle between Winter Sun and Cal Decapitation. I'm really big fans of both, and I would say they're up there at the very top. I can never pick favorites, but if I had to, those are the two for first and very, very close second place. What's your favorite cereal? I'm a big fan of Honey Bunches of Oats, but if I had to go back in my memory and pick one that I just remember loving so much, Oreo O's were so good. I don't know what it was about Oreos, but I just remember them being really, really good. And what's my favorite blaster? You know the answer to this. Good questions, Nebula. Patriot Locomotive Works says, do you like trains, and what's the cringiest movie you have ever watched? Do I like trains as in like kind of a hobby kind of thing? Not really, but trains have a very important purpose in the world, especially in the US. They carry goods. That's how we get things to places. Trains are awesome because they are so vital to the world. And what's the cringiest movie I've ever watched? Sausage Party. Like, the idea of Sausage Party, but the way they executed it, my goodness. Like, it was a combination of trying to make really crude jokes for the sake of being shocking, having absurd characters for the sake of being shocking, and then trying to cram in as many curse words as possible just to say that they had whatever. I guess that's how I feel about it. It's just they have so many curse words in it, it's like it took the fun out of it. It was just like, okay, and then the ending was just like, all right, yeah, I see what you're doing. So Sausage Party, I would say, was the cringiest. Like, I know people who love that movie. I couldn't do it. I really could not do that movie. That is a bad movie. Prickly's Nerf Mods is asking, I know you used to play HVZ and NIC games a lot. Do you still play as much as you used to? If you don't, why? Used to love the HVZ related videos, maybe bring more like those back. Great job, love the channel, peace. I don't play HVZ as much because when you're on a college campus, it's very easy to get into. It's right there once a year. When I'm here, there are invitational games going on, but scheduling is a problem. And then like, sometimes you don't know if the game is going to be good or not. So it's like, do I want to take the risk or not? NVZ was amazing just from an aspect of seeing people. And that's why I'm doing End War again, because even if the game sucks, hopefully it doesn't, I'll get to see all these people that I talk to and new people that I've been talking to. And that's like the big grasp for me. It's just people I really enjoy talking to and being around all together in one, so it can make up for a bad game in a way. But it's really just kind of like, do I want to take the risk of playing a bad game and scheduling? That's why I don't play as much anymore. NIC games, they come up whenever they do down here in the South, usually like 3 to 5 months depending between them. And maybe bring back HVZ related videos. I do want to try and film Invorb. It's a combination of, will people watch it? Because my old videos, I put a lot of work into them and not too many people watch them. But it's also like, in the moment, do I want to be carrying around a camera or have to fiddle with a camera during all of this? And just sometimes it's no. It's you just want to be in the game. You want to experience it without having to worry about, is this good footage? Should I turn my camera on? All that stuff. But I'm going to try and do End War, no guarantees, but I would like to get some End War footage out there. Milan Carpenter says, what's your biggest Nerf gun modded and official? The biggest one I've done, I think it would be Ponesaw. Ponesaw was rather large. American Stampede was big. I think Ponesaw just has more weight and stuff going on with it, so I think Ponesaw would be the bigger one. Alexander is wondering, will you be my kawaii husbando Bobo Senpai? Baka, pervert. Sure, Alex, I'll be your kawaii husbando Bobo Senpai. J Nerf says, can you make your forehead do that weird sunburn squishy thing again? If you have no idea what he's talking about, at NVZ, I did not have sunscreen on for the first day, and my forehead actually bulged out. I don't know what was going on with it, but there was like liquid in there, and I could take my thumb and dent my forehead. Hawkeye had it on his blog, and I'll try and put a video clip in there, but it was gross. And then it started like coming down my face, my eyelids got like droop. It was so nasty. Kids, wear your sunscreen for real. But J Nerf, I would really rather not do it again, but if it happens, I'll let you put some dents in my forehead. It was gross. That was a gross experience. Seriously, wear sunscreen. Alexander the Great Nerf Conqueror is wondering, why are you bald? Again, I shave my head because it's easy, less maintenance, all that good stuff. Hopefully I don't go bald. If I ever get that little circle right here, it's all coming off. I'm just gonna Mr. Clean shave it because that, I can't do that circle. It's just shave your head if it gets to that point. But if baldness comes, I will accept my baldness and we'll go Hitman or something with it. Laser Bear has a good question, and one that I've gotten a lot of times in the past on other videos is where I get my shirts. It's either from a concert, given to me, or online. So stuff like this, a lot of the band shirts I wear, probably like 99% I get from the concert itself. If I can't go, sometimes I've asked someone to get them. But things like Fallout and a couple of the band shirts, I get them online. So Bethesda has a really good merch store. If you want a Fallout shirt, that's the place to go. Dishonored shirt, Wolfenstein shirt. Any game they make, you can find a shirt for it in their web store. Bands have merch stores. Bandcamp sometimes links their stuff. And then the Bob Ross and the That's My Person, I Don't Know You, I got from friends. So that's where I get all my shirts from. Coat Duck has a very good question with, why are you so ugly? Baby, I was born this way. I don't know. That's a good question. Penguin Mikey says, how to OT mod a barricade? I'm guessing he's asking how to mod a barricade, like how do you make a really good barricade? You throw away the shell and all the internals, except for the motors, keep the motors. And if you have a stockade, it's the same thing, throw it away and go get a strife. Easiest mods, very simple to do. That's how you make a good barricade. Colby Spence has a good question with, Bobo, do you think the rival line has changed nerfing forever? And my answer to this is no, I don't think it's changed anything. So rivals are great for indoor use, or if you want like a bit more accuracy than some darts, especially the stock Nerf darts, honestly. I brought my Artemis to the last SCNC war, and while the Artemis is not the one you go to for accuracy, darts were still competing up against it very, very well. On top of that, you also have darts being cheaper to get in large bulk than Rivals rounds, but that's not to say that the rival stuff isn't good. Custom 3D Nerf has brought his Zeus to SCNC games and absolutely wrecked people with it. But darts are still very viable. They're cheaper. Rival, in my opinion, has added to nerfing. It's given kind of a different dynamic. It's changed how you can play more than changing Nerf itself. That's a good question. Nightfire is wondering, why don't you do as many SCNC wars? And it comes down to scheduling. Either I'm doing stuff that day, such as the girlfriend is off from work and we're gonna go do a fun day together, or she's working that day and the times in which she's working just doesn't really work with the SCNC event because I have to pick her up. I'm her driver. I'm her Uber driver. And just sometimes I have things that I want to do that day, like work on a project or edit a video or something like that. So I do get to SCNC games, though it's not as often as I would like or that I should be going to them. Demetrix is wondering, can I take a K26 or a LiPo? I can take both, actually. The LiPo may result in a nice shock to the system, but ooh, I can take that full K26 all the way. Fat Gabe says, how much time have you spent sanding blaster shells? A lot. Pwn Saw by itself, I would say there's around, if not more, than 30 hours of sanding going into that. There was a lot of sanding. I spend a lot of time when it comes to doing epoxy sanding and shaping, and that really, really adds up. I spend a whole heck of a lot of time. For stuff that doesn't have epoxy, just go over it with like a 200 and then 220 grit and you're good to go. Just make sure you get every little bit and clean it well before painting. ZF6 Extreme is wondering, goat whore or cattle decapitation and why? I'm gonna go with cattle decapitation on this. As I said earlier, they're a really good blend of complexity and heaviness that I really, really like. Goat Horror, from what I've listened to, is like kind of like an old school kind of thrash, but the vocals I can't really get into, and it's just not the sound that I can't really get into it. If I listen to them more, I'm sure I could, but overall, I would have to say Cattle Decapitation is way above Goat Horror in my opinion. You may disagree, but that's my answer. Ant is wondering, how can I grow a beard if hair only wants to grow on half my face? What you do is when your dad or your brother is asleep, go into their room and cut off some hair and then super glue it to your face, and over time just super glue more hair to the hair that you super glued onto yourself or other hair and just build it up, and then you can, you know, trim it and shape it to how you like. That's the best way to do it if you have trouble with growing hair. And the last question for this video is a big one. It's another music question, but this could get some fans pissed off. Scarlet Bandit is wondering, who do I prefer, Metallica or Megadeth? I'm gonna be 100% honest, so prepare yourselves if you're a fan of one or the other. I don't like either Metallica or Megadeth, and for very specific reasons why. Metallica is just boring to me. I don't find them interesting. I understand why they've gotten so popular, but just boring, not interesting songs. They kind of put me to sleep, and their new stuff is just, oh, it's bad. I bought Dragon Force's Ultra Beatdown over Death Magnetic. I thought Ultra Beatdown was way better than Death Magnetic, and they're just aging has not been good. Megadeth is for a whole different bunch of reasons. Dave Mustaine is the reason I can't get into Megadeth. Not only is his attitude absolutely horrible and he needs to get over the Metallica stuff, just drop it, dude. Like, seriously, get over it. But his voice, I really can't get into. It ruins the songs for me. That Dave Mustaine kind of voice is just so bad and takes me out of it. If I had to choose one, Metallica I can listen to better, but Megadeth, in my opinion, has the better musicians, the people who have a better grasp of their instruments. I don't know, but I really don't like either of them. I'm not a big kind of old school metal guy. I think Slayer and Anthrax are the only two big four that I can stand. Other stuff, just not so much. But man, yeah, I don't like either. But thank you for that question. That's a good one. It's a very polarizing question in a way. But there we go. That is all the questions. Hopefully you're not bored by now and you haven't left. But that is all the questions. Thank you so much to everyone who sent a question in and everyone who watches this channel. You guys are awesome. I had a lot of fun reading through these. There are some really interesting questions that some of you left. But yeah, that was a lot of questions. Thank you so much. I hope I have opened your eyes to more of who Bobololo is. But yeah, there you go. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video and have a great day wherever you are.